Today, we're going to take a look at 10 roguelikes that have unique mechanics. Now, I'll start by saying roguelike or roguelite is a subjective term, and today we're going to be pretty blasé with it. We're mostly looking at games that have procedurally generated elements, as well as permadeath in some way, shape, or form. Today's games really play with these ideas and push them to new places, or at least they look slightly different than your typical roguelike. Downwell is a curious little action roguelike where you play as a silly little fellow on a journey down a well. This well is full of enemies, from spiky snails to worms to floaty little Metroid guys, so you'll need to rely on your gun boots to eliminate threats and mediate your fall. This game's two-tone color scheme is simple but genius, as it is the concept for this entire game. You fall as far as you can, using whatever power-ups and upgrades you find on your way down. Inevitably, you'll die, and you will inevitably go into your next run. There are different color palettes and falling styles for you to unlock, which is always a great incentive to jump right back into the well. Terracards is an interesting game. Of course, that's why I made the list. You start with a tiny square of land and a few cards in your hand. Wheat, cows, a well, the usual farm affairs. You expand on this by buying new land tiles, and every few turns you add some new cards to your deck. This game both rewards patience and boldness, as it will take a bit of each to keep your farm afloat. Synergy is the name of the game here because while your crop and animal cards will produce goods on their own, certain cards provide adjacency bonuses to others. This game is a bit of a trick to learn, but once you get its systems down, you'll have a blast and discover some really cool cards. Eventually, that ever-increasing rent will take you out of the farm game, but you can always get back up on your horse and start again. I absolutely love a good game about goblins, and Peglin definitely fits the bill. You play as a little goblin, or Peglin if you will, and your goal is to make it to the evil dragon's lair and fight back against the vicious tyranny they have wrought on goblin kind. The twist? It's pachinko. As you navigate the path laid down before you, every encounter takes place on a pachinko board. Every peg you hit means you'll deal more damage to the enemy. Depending on where your ball falls, your attack will be multiplied. As you go, you'll unlock different balls to launch, each with their own unique properties and abilities. This game follows the Slay the Spire type format while you unlock more balls and relics as you make your way through each encounter, with different sections of the map divided by a boss fight. A little bit of luck and a little bit of skill will take you a long way in this fun pachinko roguelike, and who knows, maybe this run will be a time where you finally make it to the dragon. Noita is a game about a wizard. Or really, many wizards in true roguelike fashion. On the surface, it seems to be a pretty typical action roguelike, one that wouldn't make the cut for this list. But here's the thing. Every pixel is simulated. If you've ever messed around with games like 2005's classic World of Sand, or of course any of its more modern contemporaries, you know the joy of pixel-based physics. Fires burn and burn and burn through coal, wood, and flesh, but if you've got a water potion, you can put it out. You can use bomb wands to traverse through solid walls. Toxic sludge should be avoided, but you can always manipulate your magic spells and use it against your enemies. Noita is endlessly creative, and its procedurally generated levels are a blast to try to blast through. I hope you have a penchant for punishment, because this game is out to kill you, either on purpose or totally on accident, but either way, you'll have fun. Gladiator battles. Are you not entertained? We Who Are About to Die has you playing as a random gladiator from a variety of different backgrounds in their plight to do something. Win conditions vary on your background. If you're a slave, your goal is to generate enough fame to buy your freedom. If you're a former soldier, you'll want to save up gold. Thrill-seeking civilians just want to kill 80 aspirants. Each background has different starting stats, bonuses, and disadvantages that make every run a little different. For every gladiator, you'll need to balance your gold and your fame to keep the patrons happy, buy new and better equipment, and be able to just survive each match. There's a lot of depth in the systems, and you'll have to make difficult decisions on what sacrifices are worth making. This can be tricky. After all, this game isn't called We Who Are About to Live. The physics-based combat can be a little wonky and hard to master, but it's certainly unique when it comes to this kind of game, and the wide arsenal of weapons and armors fit this game extremely well. Whether your run ends in glorious victory or glorious death, I salute you. At the peak of the game industry's obsession with the survival crafting genre, the illustrious Clay Entertainment released the game Don't Starve. Much like other games in this genre, you start with nothing and you seek to build yourself a little base, only this time, death is permanent. This is what gives this game a little roguelike twist. You pick a character out of a zany cast and try to survive as long as possible. Various horrors, drawn in a Tim Burton-esque style, seek to end your playthrough, especially during the darkness of night. While I will concur that more roguelikes have borrowed from the survival crafting genre in recent years, Don't Starve did it first, and Don't Starve did it the coolest. You can always check it out with your friends too, and don't starve together. I hope you don't starve. Crypt of the Necrodancer is the rhythm roguelike where you get to give baddies a beatdown to the beat. And of course, this game has a great soundtrack. You navigate through levels set to different songs, and you can even navigate them to your own music. The game is essentially turn-based, but each turn has to be super quick. You'll need to carefully analyze the patterns of your enemies to take them down without getting hit yourself. In true roguelike fashion, there is some procedural generation and plenty of cool upgrades and items to pick up along the way. This game has a lot going on. 15 different characters with customizations for each, daily runs and many other game modes, excellent training areas to train against baddies and bosses, and even a level editor for those so inclined. Crypt of the Necrodancer is a full and creative experience, and if you have a Nintendo Switch, you can mangle some moblins to the wonderful Legend of Zelda music in the Cadence of Hyrule version of this game as well. So far, these games have been in no particular order, but the final 3 games on my list are 3 of my favorite games of all time. Unique mechanics or not, they're worth checking out. Also, while you're at it, give this video a good old roguelike if you're enjoying it. Thanks. I've always wanted to start a cult, and now I can. Cult of the Lamb sees you playing as a sacrificial lamb who has been given sublime power and the command to start a cult. You go on runs similar to the Binding of Isaac or Enter the Gungeon, but between runs, instead of continuing until you die, you'll return to your cult. Cult of the Lamb uses the loosest definition of the term roguelike, insofar as you really straight up can complete this game without dying because of how the runs are segmented. I mean, technically, if you're good, you should be able to complete most roguelikes without dying, but in Cult of the Lamb, you need to survive in order to bring things back to your cult. This is where the game gets truly unique. Imagine a mix of Animal Crossing and Don't Starve stirred in with heavy, heavy doses of the occult. You'll need to provide for your cultists, but in return they'll share their devotion and take part in the resource collection. Ultimately, your cultists will make the lamb ever more powerful until you can beat all of these game's terrifying bosses. This game has an outstanding sound and visual design, and it's one of a few video games for which I own the soundtrack on vinyl. The theming of this game is absolutely spot on. Check it out! Inscryption is almost indescribable how good and how clever this game is. So it has this FMV thing, it's not too intrusive, and it's certainly unique in the roguelike scene, but it definitely adds to the horror elements of this game. It has a 5th gen console aesthetic for the most part, think PlayStation 1, Sega Saturn type vibes, and that also adds to the horror aesthetic. It has escape room vibes with some puzzly bits that, again, add to the horror aesthetic. The vibe of this game is intense. It's dark, it's sacrifice, it's scary, but oh, it is so clever. I am not a horror game fan at all, but I have beaten this game in its entirety 3 times. The synergies of the card game are excellent. The learning curve is gradual with narrative and puzzle elements to break up the gameplay. The game is so well paced, well thought out, narratively rich, mysterious, and again, just so freaking clever that it's an unforgettable experience. This game has 2 major twists as well that absolutely flip the whole game on its head. This isn't a Slay the Spire clone, this isn't Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, or Magic the Gathering. Inscryption is a video game that you need to experience on your own. Inscryption is a game that you need to experience for the love of the medium. Inscryption is why it's so damn fun to play video games. Every time I turn around, I'm playing another round of Tape to Tape. Tape to Tape is what you get when you take an arcade-style hockey game and combine it with a roguelike. Like Inscryption and Peglin on this list, it's a choose-your-path type roguelike, although it's pretty streamlined. The real fun of this game comes in the frenetic hockey matches you'll be participating in. You'll have all sorts of boons to assist you, like a grappling hook or disco dancing powers, as well as solid stat boosts, modifiers, and upgrades, but so will your opponents. The further you make it on a run, the tougher your opponents will get. Once you get it, this game is one of those roguelikes that's usually winnable, but I always find the final Golfers boss to be one heck of a challenge. If you're into hockey or you just want something a little different to dip your roguelike cookies into, try Tape to Tape. Those are 10 roguelikes with unique mechanics. All of them are worth a shot if you're looking for something new to try. Leave me a comment with your favorite roguelike, and thank you for watching the video.